This content is brought to you by Link2, which makes private equity investment very easy. Link2 is democratizing the process of being able to invest into tech companies and crypto companies. Previously, this opportunity was only available to venture capitalists, hedge funds, and investment firms. Well, now, if you are an accredited investor, you can get this opportunity before you to be able to invest into crypto companies like Ripple, BitPay, Dapper Labs, Uphold, Abra, and many more. Link2 continues to add these respective companies and their portfolio is growing. So this is a great opportunity to double dip, to be able to hold the crypto tokens such as Ethereum, Algorand, XRP, or whatever it may be, and also invest into the companies that are building the infrastructure of the crypto market. And Link2 was part of the group that invested into Coinbase pre-IPO. And of course, that did really well for them. Well, you have the opportunity to catch the next Coinbase with Link2. So definitely check them out. It's once again the opportunity to double dip, just like the VCs, just like the hedge funds. Check out Link2, link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Pat Larsen, who's the co-founder and CEO of ZenLedger. Pat, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be here.
Well, Pat, I'm excited to speak with you because you have a solution to, of course, the crypto tax problem, if you want to call it that. And it could be pretty daunting and intimidating for many folks. I remember my early days of using Excel spreadsheets. So I'm very curious about the services and the technology and the solutions that you're bringing to the table. But let's start with your background. Where are you from and where'd you grow up?
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. I'm half Vietnamese. Grew up in little Saigon in Orange County. Went to the Air Force Academy for undergrad and studied chemistry there. And then was a pilot in the Navy. Got my MBA at University of Chicago, and then I've worked in finance and tech since then. Worked in Amazon and a couple other startups, and then co-founded ZenLedger in 2017.
And what was your first encounter with Bitcoin and crypto? Did a friend tell you about it? Did you discover it on a forum?
I think I was reading about it in 2015, 2016, and then in 2017, I kind of was fed up kind of working for other people, and I thought I could be like a startup CEO, and the only way to test that is to go out and see if you can actually do it. And cryptocurrency, obviously ICOs and everything was going bonkers in 2017, and the IRS was suing Coinbase in 2017. So it's just kind of a long bet that there would be a lot of economic activity in crypto, and that there would be government regulation and taxation of crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you hold in your crypto portfolio?
I'm kind of a crypto boomer, mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I dabble in other things, but mostly I think about the business rather than picking up tokens and digital assets.
Let's talk about ZenLedger in detail. You gave a bit of the history there. Are there any important milestones in the history, and also if you can go through the services that you provide?
Yeah, sure. Founded in late 2017, had a bunch of crypto whales Nick Carter, Ben Davenport of BitGo, Matt Gould of Unstoppable Domains, Chris McCoy, several others who invest in the company. I guess we've raised capital about 5 times. So I feel that each one is a milestone because each one let us stay in the game for another couple of years. Now we just closed a Series B, raised 15 million with Parify leading, and several other great investors in the round. But it kind of gives us a couple more years to have a large team, 50 people, really work on some really interesting problems out there. What we do now, you can think of it kind of as a TurboTax for cryptocurrency. So we'll just ingest all your transactions from day one, bring them in, clean them up, allow you or your tax professional to jump in and adjust anything as needed. And then we'll also do automatic error checking. We'll point out holes or places where we couldn't find a price on some esoteric token. And people forget that they have 4 MetaMask wallets, right? They oh yeah, I used that one for 3 weeks, but you had a bunch of activity for those 3 weeks, trying to grab those airdrops or whatever, and then you don't use it anymore, but it is still there. So we'll save you a lot of time and hopefully we can save you a lot of money as well, and just kind of take the stress out of things. Right now, we can help you with tax loss harvesting, is where you can claim losses on tokens and investments, and then you can always buy back into them later, but you're kind of locking in the loss. Say you bought something at 100, goes down to 50, you can sell it at 50, and now you get whatever $50 tax loss asset to place against your other gains. So we produce all your tax forms, we produce a full audit trail, we give you the firepower to go win audits against the IRS if needed, or settlements, or to run your business, or run your all your investments, whether it's like crypto, and then put it next to your other reports for your income and your capital gains in your real estate.
That's great. And I read that you guys are partnered with the IRS. How did that come about? Because not everyone works directly with the
Yeah,
IRS.
it's I wouldn't say it's a partnership per se. They're our customer, and
Mhm.
so the same kind of workflow and software that you need to do to get your taxes correct is the same workflow that a Big Four accounting firm would use, or the IRS would use if they're trying to figure out if someone's been avoiding taxes. So it's all about getting the transactions in and cleaned up, and getting it to what you owe in taxes, right? And did you underpay, overpay? So I was able to reach out to IRS investigators, and my sense was they were probably using Excel, and that's impossible, right?
Yeah.
You cannot do your crypto taxes in Microsoft Excel, and so we'd already built a solution that lives in SaaS, can handle millions of transactions, will go automatically pull prices for you, and will read blockchains and sync with APIs and CSVs. And so like we knew that was a valuable thing for any kind of treasury department around the world. And so like that was the thesis of that entrepreneurial outreach, and it turned out to be true.
That's awesome. I'm certainly, the fact that they're working with you guys, that's a big endorsement. Like I said, not many folks get to work with the IRS in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. And so like we obviously, like, we never share data back and forth. The IRS has never asked us for any consumer data, and we've never offered it or tried to sell it to anyone. And most of our customers never KYC AML with us because we're not filing their taxes. So we actually mostly don't know who our customers are. We're just getting the math correct for them. And so all we're really trying to do is bring in all your transactions to get you 100% accuracy of your output, and then let you and your tax professional decide what's conservative, what's aggressive, what's justifiable, what fits into your overall, tax strategy or not.
That's great. I was looking at your website, and I was seeing the comparison chart between ZenLedger and other competitors in the market, and some of the metrics you guys are head and shoulders above the competition. I was very surprised. Can you tell us about maybe some of that and what makes you guys different from like TaxBits and the others?
Yeah, yeah. I think, like, we all pick lanes, right? And I don't think there's going to be one winner here. A lot of, VCs are always like, oh, like, what's the next Google or Facebook here? And if you look at fintech, there's no 100% winners in any market. I think, a TaxBit or a Luca, who are incredibly well funded, or CoinTracker at this point, I guess, who have all raised like over $100 million each. They all have like different lanes, right? And what we focus on is first that individual experience of filing your own taxes, and then what we ended up kind of building was a plaid for crypto. Like, hey, we built this incredible ingestion engine, and the output seemed to be incredibly rigorous and accurate, but also very valuable in a couple different places. So let's figure out who else can be our customers, right? And that might be on the compliance side, or that might be on the accounting and audit side, or the tax side, or the risk side. We just kind of like look at a couple different enterprise and individual solutions there. But first and foremost, we just try to bring in as many transactions as we can, clean them up, and output them. And now we have several blockchains invest in us as well. So Borderless Capital is Algorand's VC arm. Blizzard Fund is Avalanche's VC arm. Parify has deep connections through Consensus to Ethereum Foundation. So like we think we're kind of vetted by all the people in the industry that have very complex tax issues themselves, but they also know like how the core blockchains work, and they can help us figure that out when they're adding lots of new functionality and types of transactions and stuff.
Um, we've seen an uptick in VCs, investment firms, hedge funds, and so forth, jumping into the crypto market. So, are you seeing that on the tax front that they need your services because there's just more activity happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you kind of see it from the large accounting firm standpoint. So th they were trying to figure out how to account at crypto hedge funds, and hedge funds were trying to figure out how to do their own profit and loss. And one of their traders, who's like a physics PhD, has to try to figure it out. That's not what they brought that person on for. So there's definitely more institutional pull here. The interesting counterweight to that is that Coinbase and FTX and Robinhood are spending billions a year on marketing to individuals. So there's still just like tens of millions of new individuals coming into the crypto market as well.
Sure. That's awesome. And I wanted to ask about the funding you mentioned, the $15 million round. How would that capital be deployed? What's kind of on your roadmap for 2022?
Yeah, so we've tripled the size of our team in the last like 9 months, and we kind of hired in a C-suite, which was really cool for me. Like 3 or 4 months ago, I didn't know if I could close the round of funding, and I didn't know if I could hire like other leaders to be in the company. Those are very interesting transition points when you go from founding founder team to like, hey, we're 4 or 5 years in, and people start transitioning out to new roles. So like we use the capital for that because talented people, have a very established market rate. They're compensated well. So most of the funding just goes to keeping a great team together long enough to build, cool stuff. And then, you spend the rest on marketing to let people know the cool stuff you built.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I want to talk a bit about the crypto market and get your perspective since you've been here for a long time. Um, we saw Bitcoin had a big run up last year. The crypto market did really well. NFTs had a blast off as well. Now it seems we're heading into crypto winter. What are your thoughts on the cycles and do you see us going back up maybe next year or so?
Yeah, I think it's clear that crypto was like a risk on asset, right? So we were just really benefiting from a lot of capital being just sloshing around in the world and jumping into the stock market and jumping into the crypto market and then jumping into VC and then jumping into crypto startups. I do think that VC money will take a little pause, but it'll go back into crypto because it's just such an interesting and explosive space. So like that'll pick up again in whatever 3 or 6 months. Every VC raised like $1 billion fund four in February, and they're going to take a pause, but they do have to deploy that capital at some point. It's hard to say if central banks are going to like fight inflation and raise interest rates, or if they're going to try to find some like middle ground. Like if I was a central bank and I wasn't worried about what the top five banks in my country really wanted, I would like do digital currency and I would find a way to do direct stimulus to individual wallets while also raising the interest rates. Because like you have to tamp down inflation, but you also have to like have people not starve and be shoved into poverty by capital constriction or by inflation, right? And the solution before has always been give money to central banks, hope that they make car loans and mortgages, or to commercial banks, right? But now you don't have to do that. You can like just give everyone a wallet, send them USD, national token, and now it's all audible and trackable, and you know that they have that money, and no one else like took a big cut of it or is defrauding like what happened in PPP and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course that's been worked on the digital dollar and there's central banks around the world also, building their CBDC.
Hmm.
There are many what I would call hardcore Bitcoiners who kind of look down on everything else, but the reality is a lot of these things are being built. Do you see CBDCs as being beneficial to crypto, given that we're all headed into that digital economy?
Yeah, I think it'll reduce friction even more, and it'll make it so that there's less hostility. Like, you think of it, like people who run in companies are in their 50s and 60s, and people that have political power in their 60s and 70s, like none of those people know anything about crypto, right?
Yeah.
and they don't even know how it rhymes with traditional finance and how all dollars are array digital, right? Like they kind of have a sense that all dollars are array digital, but there's a big education gap there. So I think it's great that crypto has enough lobbying heft now that they can participate in the creation of some of these policies. And then every tech and fintech and bank has crypto designs now. Like if you just look at the Fortune 50 and you go down the list, basically all of them have crypto or blockchain projects. It's amazing.
Yeah, it seems everyone is jumping in one way or the other. Um, Now, we just saw in March that President Biden passed the crypto executive order. Just this past week, we had Senator Lummis and Gillibrand release comprehensive crypto regulations. I'd love to get your thoughts as someone who's building in the crypto market, and maybe the lack of clarity that we don't have the full clarity yet, and haven't got a Bitcoin spot ETF approved. The SEC is going after certain altcoin projects. What are your thoughts on the entire situation?
Yeah, I think it is, again, like a slow move towards that. I think you'll still get competition from smaller developed countries like South Korea, Singapore, Switzerland, Estonia, whatever, right? They'll move faster here. Maybe even the UK, right? The UK like realizes they're kind of losing their primacy as a financial hub, or maybe UAE, right? So I think they'll press the pace faster than the US ever would. But the US clearly is driving the conversation globally in crypto. Like it's just inescapable that like prices and capital flow are all tied to US regulation. I think that it's really cool that President Biden and his advisors are thinking about it. And then Governor Newsom in California, which is like the sixth largest economy in the world, came out with their own executive order as well. And then the proposed legislation here, from what I've read, it doesn't have much chance of passing, but it starts the conversation, and
Right.
it starts it in a much more industry friendly way. It seems like the SEC is pretty antagonistic towards crypto, and it's just looking to like find scam, put people in jail, like find scam, put people in jail. Like that's all the SEC is trying to do. Whereas
Right.
it seems like this legislation, the CFTC is trying to think like, hey, there's a de minimis. That means we want people to use crypto. Like if you're saying everything under $200 is exempt from taxation, you're asking for lots of financial activity to move over here, right? You want to make it easy to use, which is great. And strangely enough, like payments is still unsolved, right? We celebrate the PayPal mafia, and payments are still just a wreck. Like we all still just like it's so kludgy still. So there's still a lot of innovation to be done. I think that America will find some interesting middle ground, and then once that happens, Fortune 50 companies will like all deploy billions and billions into crypto, and that'll be pretty interesting. But like the real innovation will probably happen still outside the U.S. I think.
Mm. And you mentioned the $200. Let's say anything below 200 is exempt from a taxable event. Let's say you're purchasing a coffee or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and that presents a great opportunity for your business with anything above $200, right? And are you guys kind of like anticipating? Well, we kind of have to build this infrastructure when we hit that point of everyday usage of crypto.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's really cool because, like, right now we have dollars and then we have stocks, right? And you can't buy coffee with a share of Tesla or a fractional share of Tesla. But there's a very quick, easy way to turn your small ownership of Tesla into dollars and then into a cup of coffee, right?
Mhm.
I think it'll be really interesting with Bitcoin. Like, again, people own cryptocurrency for a number of different reasons. Right now, you're seeing a lot of people sell, so the people who are left are like the people who think it'll appreciate in the long term, right? And if you think Bitcoin's going to appreciate in the long term, you don't want to sell any of it for a cup of coffee,
Right.
right? You're going to hold on to it for a long time. So that's always the interesting tug there. And then, like stuff like Terra Luna or whatever, you're trying to algorithmically do something. Maybe it's pegged, maybe it's not. Maybe there was crime there or not. But like you're trying to have dollars and then a stable coin and then a token next to it.
Hmm.
And like, what's the value of that next token? And then are you kicking off NFTs and funding startups and DAOs and DEXs on that token? Because you're not running it on the stable coin, right? So like, I think we still need tons of that, right? Like decades of that kind of innovation play, and we're not going to figure it out in the near term, clearly.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, and we have to see how things play out. I often envision that the Bitcoin I hold, I am a long-term holder, that one day the price is so high, I'm spending Satoshis, it's not even taking anything away from my holdings. But we're probably like you said, like
Yeah,
10
or
years.
you just spend the interest, right?
Sure.
You earn you earn Bitcoin interest, and you just spend you live off just like an annuity or a retirement fund.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you about NFTs and the metaverse and what are your thoughts there? And I guess the question I should have asked you before is, does ZenLedger provide services where if I'm buying and selling, trading NFTs to calculate my taxes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's mostly just an entry and an exit price on the token that you bought or sold, and then the dollar price of that token, right? So there's all sorts of weird kludgy things that have happened because of the dollar to ETH volatility, right? So you could have bought something for 10 ETH and then sold it for 10 ETH, but ETH could have gone up or down in between, or you could have bought something for 20 ETH, sold it for 10 ETH. But we'll help you figure out the actual dollar gain and loss on all your NFT buys and sells. We don't give you a bunch of floor prices. We're not like a portfolio tracker of NFTs. I know everyone loves to see it, but like I think it's healthier if you don't like attach too much meaning to floor prices in your NFT portfolio right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see NFTs going beyond artwork and what are some of the use cases maybe you see on the in the horizon, and also thoughts on metaverse as well?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think if you just think of NFTs again as an access token, and don't ascribe those three letters to them, they still make a ton of sense, right? Like, I want to go see the Warriors play against the Celtics. I have to produce some like scarce admission token to get in there to enjoy the experience in a different way than watching it on TV. But even TV, I'm probably paying for cable. Every month they check to see if I paid, and there's like an access token there. My cable gets turned off, right? So there's all sorts of like very useful ways that tokens or access tokens or NFTs are played out. I think that name, image, likeness is going to be really cool. So Gary Vaynerchuk is one of our investors, and they're obviously going to have great athletes releasing their own baseball cards, right? But it'll like now all sorts of athletes who played like college sports that weren't monetized or Olympic sports or whatever, they're going to get a new income stream, and that's going to help a lot more athletes stay playing their sport rather than having to have drive a UPS truck while they're training for the Olympics or something, right? So there will be like these are big wins, right? These are not like at the margins things. This is like hundreds of thousands of more people get to earn income and become expert in the field they want to be an expert in, whether that's like music, art, or athletics, rather than having to like go do something else. Like, oh, I help marketing campaigns selling car insurance, but what I really want to do is be a champion gymnast, right? Like you can just like try to be great at the thing you want to be great at, which is like actually a super cool thing that I don't think people talk about enough. I think the art part was just easy because it stayed digital, and it stayed the transaction and distribution was very easy, right? It's much more difficult to make it attached to real estate and real estate taxes and ownership of land, or to a great athlete or something. Those things take more than a weekend to get out there into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very curious to see what are the other applications and use cases where this technology is going to take us beyond the artwork, like, and maybe like you said, like real estate tokenization of different things. This is a tough question to ask, and it's not a price prediction question, but more of an adoption question, and that is, where do you see the crypto market in 5 years? I don't think we've hit mass adoption yet. There's a lot of marketing happening now, but where do you see the market in 5 years?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because if you'd asked me this in 2017, in like summer 2017, people were like, "Oh my God, it's going to change the world! Like we're going nuts, right?" And if you asked me this 2 years ago, no one would have said we would have made this much progress in 24 months, right? You'd be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! We didn't expect an executive order from the president of the United States in the middle of our like COVID summer like crypto wintry thing. So I think it's so hard to predict what's going to happen because I do think traditional finance and finance like central banks are going to shape a lot of this discussion, right? It's because we're kind of at a point where you need like A16Z to be able to bring in $2 billion into a VC fund, and so they need like a lot of government clarity so that they can deploy that, right? So these are like crypto has grown up enough that it needs to be making bigger bets and it needs a lot more capital, and it's going to shift markets around now, right? Like you don't get to just like mess up El Salvador's economy or something, right? We got there through 15 years of like Bitcoin being attacked every day and trying to be hacked, and no one ever did it, right? And so a lot of these projects haven't really been stress tested yet. They're in the middle of being stress tested, and so a lot of people are going to learn a lot of lessons from this, right? And that will be really beneficial. Like we had to have the .com bust to have all these people know how to build crypto. Like a lot of the people who built crypto were junior engineers in 2000 and learned lessons, right? And then they had to live through the financial crisis and be like, that's it. I'm shorting the banks. I'm like betting on algorithms. And then they built a bunch of stuff, right? So like I do think it's cool because a lot more colleges will like comp sci departments will have blockchain courses. You'll be able to jump into entrepreneurship. You'll get a lot more talented comp sci people dropping out of college in the next 5 years, I think, because there'll be something there that they can build. So I'm bullish on it. I hope that the U.S. creates a sandbox like Canada and Switzerland kind of did. I wouldn't be surprised if there are huge macroeconomic dislocations because of inflation and like regional military conflict like you have in Ukraine or somewhere else. But yeah, I'm not going to pretend I can predict the future here. What are your thoughts?
I think the regulatory clarity seems to be catching up. I was surprised by the executive order as well as the bipartisan bill. And I think that's important to get both sides of the aisle to focus on this. So I think the regulatory clarity will be, I think, completed by then. I think we'll have what we're waiting for here in the United States, at least. And, I think certain catalysts like a Bitcoin spot ETF will just help us hit mass adoption because of retirement accounts and all these things and compliance and all these companies who want to get involved, but they can't touch it directly, but it can go through an ETF. I think we're going to see that mass adoption. But hey, look, I don't know. Somebody could throw something in a wrench into the whole system, right? and slow us down like a Gary Gensler or something, but I digress.
Yeah.
Got some wrap-up questions here for you. If you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be about?
Yeah. I think it would be cool if you had, I mean, like all the other metaverse ideas are taken and you and me are both science dorks apparently. So it would be cool to kind of have a more sciencey, more Minecrafty, more STEM oriented metaverse because like in the end, like you can't just build stuff out of bits and bytes. You have to build stuff with atoms. And so like I really want to see that happen, like a lot more of that. I find I have a lot of friends who are like depressed about this or that. It's usually politics or economy. And I'm like, just go to a high school science fair and see all these smart kids building all this cool stuff, and it'll make you optimistic about the future again.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great way to get some new perspective, right? And the future generation coming up with cool ideas. Rapid fire questions. Favorite food?
Vietnamese pho.
Musician or band?
I guess I'm a '90s hip hop guy in general. My kids are listening to Avicii, which is kind of funny. I'll go with Avicii right now.
Cool. Favorite movie?
Let's go with Fight Club.
That's a great one. Favorite book?
Ender's Game.
And when you're not working at ZenLedger, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Yeah, I'm learning ice hockey because my kids play ice hockey because their Japanese grandfather played ice hockey. Hiking, and photography, sports photography. And my kids are trying to turn me into kind of like a Magic the Gathering, an anime weeb kind of guy. So we'll see if we go there.
Pat, pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. It was really fun chatting.